Christmas Eve of this year, the Henrico Doctors Hospital in Richmond, VA had to sound the alarm because they noticed a disturbing influx of NICU or Neonatal Intensive Care patients who were ending up with injuries, so fractures to their little tiny bones. These are tiny babies. They're not even capable of living without continued monitoring and medical assistance. Now, it's not unheard of for babies to have injuries when they're born, but following birth, they're kind of looked over. So if there's any fractures, they can quickly treat those. It wasn't even the first time the hospital had noticed this kind of thing happening, because in the summer of 2023, there were 4 cases where the NICU babies were also having injuries like broken legs and things like that. We don't have a ton of information on exactly what injuries occurred. We only really have one story where a father was actually willing to kind of tell his son's story, and we're going to get more into that. The likelihood of a baby having a fracture during delivery process is like 0.23 out of 1,000 births, and that's according to ScienceDirect.com. So not completely uncommon, not a complete rarity, but not something that happens that much. Continuously seeing babies who didn't have injuries following birth come up with these fractures, that would obviously be really concerning to any perceptive medical personnel. If you let bones go untreated, when they go to fuse back together, they sometimes don't fuse back in the correct places. So that can cause deformities. It can cause a need for surgery. They'll have to do additional treatment things to get the bones set back into place. It's uncomfortable. Obviously, it's going to cause higher medical bills because they have to do more to treat the condition. The hospital launched an internal investigation, and during that investigation, they decided to get the Henrico Police Department in on it. So they opened cases for 2024, and they also reopened 4 cases from the summer of 2023. And then the hospital are also partnering with Henrico Child Protective Services and the Virginia Department of Health, as well as the Virginia State Police Department. It's an ongoing investigation, but yes, there's multiple agencies providing their expertise on the case. They have hundreds of hours of footage from the NICU that they're currently sifting through. They're reluctant to tell us too much about the other cases or what's going on with the case, because obviously it's still in the investigation process. Right now, we know there are 7 victims. They are all boys. There are no girls. That is the only thing that they will say at this point. There's been rumors going around the web where they were saying that it was only Black babies who were being injured, but that is not the case. The only link that all of these babies has is that they are all boys. One of those babies was severely injured multiple times, like sustained multiple injuries over the course of a couple of months. The number of victims may grow because the police department put out a call. If you had a baby at the Henrico Doctors Hospital and you suspect your baby had an injury, come talk to us. So what we know now is we have the name of the nurse. She was actually arrested on January 2nd, arraigned on January 3rd. Her name is Erin Elizabeth Ann Stratman. She was charged with felony child abuse, which carries a sentence of 10 years in prison. And she was also charged with felony malicious wounding. That carries a penalty of up to 20 years. And these charges only relate to one case. So one child that was injured on her watch. And that case is from November of 2024. Now, here's the crazy part though. This lady was placed on a year-long administrative paid leave by the hospital from the cases that stem back from summer of 2023. So they already had an idea that this lady was doing what she was doing, because they made her leave and then they brought her back in November of this year, which is absolutely insane to me, because while I get that our healthcare system is desperately in need of employees, you don't bring back the people who are obviously doing more harm than good to the patients that you have. Like, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that. And she was still working there as recently as Thanksgiving, as around November. She wasn't officially fired from the hospital until January 2nd. They freaking knew that something was very suspicious. Like, why are all these babies getting injured on your watch? They're suspecting that she's causing these babies injuries, and instead of saying, get the fuck out of here, and especially reporting it to the board of nursing, they're bringing her back into work. So right now she's being held at the Henrico County Jail without bond. She cannot have any contact with anybody under the age of 18. her public defender, Scott Cardani, okay, I'm gonna just say Cardani. He wouldn't comment too much about it. He did say she is not entering a plea deal. And on March 24th of this year, she will be back in court. We're gonna be following this. I will definitely put an update up. If they find the evidence that says she did all the stuff that they said happened to those babies, I hope they put her under the jail. I hope she gets 30 years. I don't understand what would possess somebody to hurt a baby. I mean, NICU babies are especially vulnerable. And of course, parents are already under so much stress because their babies are having to stay in the hospital for extended periods of time. They're probably going back and forth because they've got to keep a job, to keep a roof over their head, to keep the health insurance. And you find out that the people who are supposed to be helping your baby, the doctors, the nurses, the people who are there, you're supposed to be able to put their trust in them. And then there's this one person who's just out there doing the wrong thing, being a terrible person, quite frankly. Like I was saying early in the video, we really only know about one victim because one of the parents did come out. His name is Dominic Hackey. I am going to go ahead and just play his video here really quick.
I remember her being in the room. She was friendly, she answered questions, but she didn't stay and talk like the other NICU nurses did. She wasn't family like the other NICU nurses were, because that shouldn't have happened. If they were suspicious of some person enough to let him go, they shouldn't have brought him back. So that's on them. They failed. Simple.
Dominic and his wife, Tori, have fraternal twin boys, Noah and Micah, and they were born prematurely at 28 weeks. So, of course, they had to spend some time in the NICU, and poor Micah, he wasn't as healthy as Noah was. Noah was showing more signs of thriving at the time. Of course, the parents were devastated but hopeful. They had already had 2 miscarriages before the twins were born. They're first-time parents. They're scared to death. They're just hoping and praying that both of their children live, and poor Micah was just really going through it. With Noah being the healthier twin, Mr. Hackey was looking forward to actually holding Noah for the first time. Unfortunately, when he got there to hold Noah for the first time, they told him that his leg was fractured. And obviously they didn't know what caused the fracture. But of course, Mr. Hackey at that point, he was scared. He didn't want to hold him because A, he didn't want anyone thinking that he caused the damage to his child's leg. And B, he didn't want to cause the baby any further pain. So he declined to hold them, but of course he's devastated. He's like, how did my kid end up with a fracture? Like, what the heck is going on here? And this was just 7 days after the boys were born. And then getting any kind of justice for this family was seriously a case of just back and forth, back and forth. Mr. Hackey's mother is actually a director of nursing at a different hospital, but she used to work in the NICU at Henrico Doctors Hospital. He relays the information about the injury to his mother, to which his mother is stunned, upset, like those are her grandbabies, obviously. So she reaches out to Child Protective Services to have an investigation done. So the hospital opens an investigation into Noah's injury, and a week later they close it, and they say that the injury was a result of a roughly handled injection. Dominic Hackey's mom sits the couple down and shows them how an injection is administered to a NICU baby. So there's really no room for error. It's very gently done. It really seems like this was an intentional or incredibly negligent injury. So the Henrico police, they opened their own investigation in January of 2024. But they closed it not long after because there was no suspect, but not before they told the Hackeys that they suspected that Noah was a victim of criminal child abuse. Mr. Hackey sees a picture of Aaron Stratman and he was in shock, because there was nothing that would trigger him to believe that she was the kind of person that would just randomly hurt a baby. He recalls seeing her, but she wasn't like in the room and like having conversations like the other nurses. She was just kind of in there for a second. She was polite and then she would dip out, and there was like really no interaction beyond what was necessary for the job. So on the date of Stratman's arraignment, a lot of the families came together at the courthouse and they kind of of like piece the information together about what happened to their own children. And of course, it was an incredibly emotional meeting. Everybody was like hugging each other, they're crying. We don't know how far this goes. We're not sure that all of the babies are still here, if you understand what I'm saying, that we haven't had any babies that have transitioned after what happened with Aaron Stratman. But they found out that Noah was the third victim of the 4 babies from 2023. So here's what Henrico Doctors Hospital announced on their website December 2024. They said that they are taking some steps to increase safety measures, and those steps include additional head-to-toe examinations of the babies, increased safety training for caregivers, new training for healthcare providers to identify and report neglect or abuse. They were installing 24-hour new live streaming systems so that parents can keep an eye on their babies at all times. And this is what they said about Stratman's arrest. So they said, "We are both shocked and saddened by this development in the investigation and are focused on continuing to care for our patients and providing support to our colleagues who have been deeply and personally impacted by this investigation. We are grateful to those colleagues who have dedicated their professional lives to the care and safety of our patients, as well as to law enforcement and the other agencies who have worked aggressively and tirelessly with us on this investigation." Henrico County's attorney, Shannon Taylor, said, "While there has been an arrest for one person and allegedly inflicting injury on a single victim, I would emphasize this is an ongoing investigation spanning potential offenses committed both 2023 and 2024. I assure the public that the investigation of these matters will be thorough, and if sufficient evidence arises to establish the criminal culpability of other individuals, additional charges will be brought forthwith without fear or favor to any party." So there's a chance that there are other people who might have been in on these abuse cases, and they're going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law as well. And I would expect nothing less, because it's an abuse of power. Like, obviously you're much bigger than these tiny little human beings who aren't even fully developed. And it just really pisses me off. Like, on a mother level, as somebody who has kids, like, it really, seeing that shit like hurt my heart. I know some of those parents have got to be effing raging, because I am raging, and it wasn't even my kid that was involved. The Hackies did share some good news with us. They said that the twins are doing well. They are 16 months old at this point. Noah had to have some physical therapy right out of the hospital, but both boys are walking and climbing, and they are adventurous, and they're well on their way to running. God bless those parents. May your feet be quick, because I know when my kids started running, I don't think I ever had peace again at that point, to be quite honest with you. But we have some solace here. We have no idea what long-term effects these injuries might have on the babies. Maybe it'll be nothing because they're little and they have so much time to heal and things are growing into place, and their bones weren't fully solid at that point anyway. But anyway, I'm gonna keep up with this case. I will keep you all updated. If you're interested, please subscribe and like it to tell the algorithm that you want to come back here and have more conversations with me. This is kind of out of the norm of what we normally do on this channel, because we do like true crime, dark history, weird mysteries, things like that. But this was a really dark story that I really wanted to bring some attention to, because I haven't heard a lot about it. It bothered me, so I figured people should be aware of it. Just keep an eye on your kids, but in the meantime, just send positive vibes. If you pray for these families, these little babies. I hope that everybody is still here and that they can grow up to have long, happy, prosperous lives, and just let them know that we stand behind them in the comment section. And in the meantime, everybody just take care, and I'll be back soon.